So the Werehog from Sonic Unleashed gets a really bad rep from a lot of people in the fan base, but is it actually a good gameplay style? Let's discuss right now.
I got hot sauce in my pants.
Hello there beautiful human, my name is RidersDX and welcome to my channel where today we're going to be talking about an interesting topic that I don't know if anyone was expecting me to talk about, at least at this point, and that's the Werehog in Sonic Unleashed. Now, I don't know if you all have noticed, but in a lot of my Sonic videos I've been using a lot of Unleashed gameplay, and the reason for that is because I've been playing through Sonic Unleashed recently. I need some gameplay footage to put in all my videos, so that's kind of been helping to motivate me to play through some of these games again, and it's actually been a lot of fun, kind of going down memory lane and playing some of my favorite games and not so favorite games again. And Sonic Unleashed was one of those games where I wasn't really sure if I liked it or not, because I think when I last played it, I did enjoy the daytime stages a lot, but the Werehog kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth, from what I last remembered. So playing this game again, I wasn't really looking forward to going through the Werehog stages again, but I'm here to discuss if my thoughts on the Werehog have actually changed since I last played the game. So let's go ahead and get into that. But before we get into it, you all know me at this point, we gotta take a look at some fan art. So this comes from a user named Neo Mario Bros. This is a user that posted their art in my Discord server, and check out Metal Duckles here. I gotta say, I love the duck beak in this one especially. I mean, it's shaped in a bit of a strange way, compared to what I've seen before, but I really like it. It's got its own unique spin to it, and Metal Duckles looks kind of menacing here, which I'm really digging. And I also just love the drawing style to this overall. It's nice to see that some people can still take a piece of paper, with some colored pencils and just draw something for fun. It's really great. Although I do love digital art. This makes me a little bit nostalgic in terms of how I would used to draw things sometimes when I was a kid. So thank you so much. They have a YouTube channel, so I'll leave a link to Neon's YouTube channel in the description box below and also in the top right corner. But thank you so much, Neon. I really appreciate this. Back to the topic at hand. So I don't know if any of you have watched this video of mine previously, but when the rumors of the Sonic Adventure remake were coming out, I made a couple of videos talking about how I was against the idea of multiple playstyles in Sonic games, and to be honest, that's still an idea that I firmly believe in. I think that having multiple playstyles really dilutes the focus of the game, even though there's a lot of games that actually do it. The more successful games tend to be the ones that focus on one gameplay style primarily, maybe having some levels here and there that do something a little bit different, but nothing like, say, a third or half of the game like a lot of Sonic games are. So that's still a viewpoint that I hold very strongly and that I truly believe in. But in terms of the quality of these multiple gameplay styles, that can vary. So there's some gameplay styles I really like and there's some gameplay styles I don't like. Like for example, I really enjoy the mechanics of the treasure hunting levels. I mean, the level designs themselves can be a little bit hit or miss, but the mechanics are really fun, and being able to glide around with Knuckles, digging into things and attacking enemies and looking for Master Emerald pieces, that could be really, really fun if done right. Now, in terms of Werehog, when Sonic Unleashed first came out, I was really excited for it. It was right after Sonic 06, and at that time, I wasn't really sure how I felt about Sonic 06, but I knew for sure that Sonic needed a brand new game to kind of win everyone over again. And when Sonic Unleashed first came out, I remember it so clearly. There was footage of Missouri daytime that leaked, and I watched it and I was so excited for it. It looked like Sonic Rush in 3D, and I was a really big fan of Sonic Rush at the time, so it was just so exciting to me. I watched that footage non-stop over and over again. I had a Sonic website at the time, so I uploaded it onto that, and yeah, just good times. The game was so exciting to me when it first was announced. But then I heard about the Werehog and I was a little bit mixed on that, and then when I played the actual Werehog in Sonic Unleashed, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. I think the thing that really bogged me down most about the Werehog is how much it actually took up the game, because since the daytime levels are so much shorter than the Werehog levels, the Werehog actually feels like it's the majority of the game. You could rush through the Werehog levels theoretically to make it seem more like an even split, but the reality is with the Werehog levels, you do have to take your time through it because, well, one, when you're first playing the game, you're gonna have to take your time through it. It's just how you're gonna learn otherwise. And 2, you need to collect all those sun and moon medals just to progress through the game, so you kind of have to take your time at least once, and that's what ultimately makes the Werehog the primary gameplay style of Sonic Unleashed, which is a little unfortunate because I think that's where Sonic Unleashed gets a lot of its bad rep, just for dedicating so much of its time towards a Werehog. But the question I want to address today is whether the Werehog gameplay style itself is a good gameplay style. So yes, it's true that like it really should not have been the main focus of Sonic Unleashed because it's a Sonic game. You know, the main focus of a Sonic game should be Sonic, you know, not another gameplay style that doesn't suit Sonic very well. But in this case, the Werehog truly did take up most of the game, and that's where my criticism for the game mainly was after a while, and I kind of just stopped playing the game because, you know, I didn't like how much the Werehog took up of the game. But playing it again recently and trying to figure out how I feel about the Werehog now, I actually genuinely really enjoy the Werehog gameplay. You know, it's weird. So I'm still against like multiple gameplay styles. I think it dilutes the game's focus, and it's really not a good idea in pretty much any circumstance. But I have to admit, Sonic Team did a really good job designing the Werehog and the daytime stages in this game. They gave them both a lot of attention, and a lot of the kinks worked out. I mean, sure, there's some weird things here and there, but the Werehog itself plays very well. You know, mechanistically, there's not that many glitches. The Werehog moves pretty smoothly. The camera does get in the way sometimes here and there, but not nearly as much as like the adventure games, for example. The Werehog plays decently well, and the combat is diverse enough. I mean, sure, you could still be smashing buttons here and there if you want to, but the combat is a lot more fun if you're mixing it up with different combo styles and using different moves here and there, because 1, it's faster, and 2, there's a lot more satisfaction that you gain out of it because you're like, ooh, I was able to pull off these combos and those combos and defeat the enemies this way, and now it's so much faster and so much more fun rather than just like mashing the same button over and over again and taking longer, because, you know, the same attacks are not going to be the most effective with every enemy. Like, for example, the Bumblebee is kind of in the air, so you kind of need to use combos that are more aerial like, whereas some of those bigger ground enemies that have more energy and have a lot of defenses, you need to use more powerful ground attacks to get through their defenses. And this is where the strategy of the Werehog came in, and I think it was pretty fun actually, and I really surprised myself like playing this game. You know, at first I wasn't enjoying the Werehog, you know, as much as I basically was. I wasn't really enjoying the Werehog that much, but as I kept playing the game, I got a little bit more used to the Werehog, and I grew more accustomed to its moveset, and it got to the point where like I really didn't mind playing the Werehog. It was pretty fun, and I got to be strategic with the combat, and it was cool to kind of explore all the different nooks and crannies, because I love a lot of games where you can kind of explore everything at your own pace and collect a lot of things. You know, I really love collectathons. That's why I love SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, for example, or Crash Twinsanity, or Super Mario Galaxy. I love a lot of those kind of games, and the Werehog felt similar to those games in terms of like exploring different parts of the level and collecting as many items as you can, and that was pretty fun. I mean, sometimes it did drag on a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Some of the levels were a lot longer than they should have been, and also when you think about the fact that the daytime levels take like what, 2 to 3 minutes, sometimes maybe 5 minutes at most for like really long levels, while the Werehog levels can take like a half hour depending on how much time you spend. That balance really wasn't right. It should have been more even at least, you know, either give us more daytime levels or make the Werehog levels shorter, you know, it should have been a much more even balance. But for what it's worth, the Werehog gameplay was actually pretty well designed, you know, like I said, not that many glitches. The combat can be boring, but if you play it right, then it can actually be really interesting, so it really depends on how you play. And even then, like, some people just don't like beat 'em ups, and that's totally reasonable. You know, some people just don't like the idea of like having to fight waves and waves of enemies over and over again. But for me personally, I like the combat system here. I think beat 'em ups can be done right. You just have to find ways to make them more unique and more interesting. You know, the biggest example I can think of right now that does this right is the Batman Arkham games, because in those games, like, there's a lot that goes into the combat, and it becomes very, very strategic in terms of like how you're supposed to get through these waves and waves of enemies without dying. And the game makes you feel like a complete badass by like executing all these different combos, countering all these attacks, and defeating like waves and waves of bad guys without breaking a sweat. And the Werehog kinda approaches that, although not as good as the Arkham games, and I'm not asking for the Werehog to be as good as the Arkham games. I have realistic expectations here, but I'm just saying that the Werehog had a lot of thought put into it, I felt like, and it felt like as big of a part of the game same as the daytime levels. So it didn't feel like a multiple gameplay style that was shoehorned in, kind of like, say, Amy's gameplay and Big's gameplay in the original adventure games. It felt like a lot of development went into it, and they were trying their hardest to make sure that gameplay style was as good, if not better, than the daytime levels. And I guess, like, if you're really gonna go for the idea of multiple gameplay styles, you might as well try to put as much as you can into each of the different styles so that one doesn't feel like it was looked over the other. You know, making sure that both gameplay styles get a lot of treatment, a lot of care, and that you really do care to make sure that they're both really good. I think multiple gameplay styles can work in that case. I just, you know, from seeing a lot of different games that tackle multiple gameplay styles and how many of them are very mediocre compared to games that just focus on one style, I just find it a lot more efficient and a lot more likely that you're gonna get a great game if you focus all your resources on one specific gameplay style. But that's just me. I know a lot of people disagree with me, so I'm not going to harp on that point anymore. But I will say that I was surprisingly impressed with the Werehog playing it through this time around. I think once I let go of the fact that the game was mostly the Werehog, it allowed me to look at the Werehog gameplay with a more open mind and actually enjoy the specific nuances that come with playing it. And I honestly think that people, you know, kind of went into the Werehog with a more open mind and tried to enjoy it for what it was, rather than get pissed at the fact that it takes up like 75% of the game. Then there's a lot to actually enjoy in the Werehog levels. I think if anything, the most annoying thing I found about the Werehog levels was the fact that sometimes there was just too many enemies, you know? When you have waves of enemies coming in after each other, like 2 seconds apart, it can get pretty tiresome and pretty repetitive. And I think the biggest example of this was Shamar night level. Like, oh my gosh, I felt like there were just waves of enemies coming at me every single 10 seconds, and it was just so annoying after a while. I was so glad to finish that level when it was over. But yeah, other than that, I felt like the Werehog levels actually were pretty good and pretty fun, and it definitely is a difference in my opinion from what I had before. Beforehand, I thought the Werehog was completely inappropriate for a Sonic game, and more or less I still think it is, but for what it's worth, it is a fun gameplay style and Sonic Team did a good job of designing it. But what do y'all think about the Werehog? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did y'all like it? Did y'all hate it? You know, I'd be really interested in seeing how the community feels about the Werehog, especially compared to when it first came out, where there was a lot of backlash against it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to my channel if you like videos like these, want to see more in the future, follow me on Twitter at RidersDX, or join my Discord server, the Spongy Garden. And this is Riders, riding out.